After all the craziness that saw 20 players become ineligible right ahead of their first game of the season, week 0 against UNC, FAMU, led by quarterback Jeremy Moussa, had a really good showing against the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill. We're going to talk about it after the bumper. Stay tuned. What's good people? What is good people? My name is JeffLightsyJr. here with the Black Boss channel and Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and notification bell because we upload every single day. Now, FAMU, the Rattlers, took on North Carolina week 0 down in Chapel Hill, but it had its fair share of controversy that stemmed before the game. Just to give you a brief summary, FAMU found out that 20 players from the roster were deemed ineligible by the NCAA compliance office for a number of reasons. Some of it academic, some of it paperwork. We weren't specified or told what players were just academically ineligible and what players just didn't get the paperwork or the school just didn't get the paperwork. But regardless, 20 players didn't make the trip. FAMU players originally decided they didn't want to play. Then the president came and spoke to them. They decided to play. And some people had their own speculations of why they decided to play, but the players were convinced to play, and they played, and they gave a very honorable effort, a very honorable effort in a 24-56 loss to North Carolina. This game was close for most of the game, right? North Carolina scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. That's what kind of blew the game, got it out of control. FAMU outscored North Carolina in the third quarter, 10-7. But the game got out of, like I said, got away from the Rattlers in the fourth quarter in a 32-point loss in a game that they were underdogs by over 40 points because they were down 20 players, including 2 of their best players, the reigning Buck Buchanan Award winner in Isaiah Land, 19 sacks, and Isaiah Land and BJ Bowler, and a ton of other guys. They only had, according to Coach Willie Simmons, 7 eligible linemen, offensive linemen, that is. 7. That's it. It takes 5 of them to play the game. And you only have 7 eligible offensive linemen for an entire college football game, not just a college football game, but a college football game on the road against an FBS program, a Power 5 program, an ACC program with 5-star defensive linemen in the North Carolina Tar Heels. And FAMU held their own. Let me show the box score. And part of the reason why they were able to hold their own was the impressive debut by quarterback Jeremy Moussa. Jeremy Moussa showed complete control of the Rattlers offense. Let's take a look at the box score. You see Musa finish 28 of 38. 28 of 38 on the road in Chapel Hill with only 7 offensive linemen. 28 of 38, 279 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did throw an interception, but 2 touchdowns. That is impressive for your FAMU Rattler debut on the road with only 7 offensive linemen and missing 20 guys from the roster. I mean, come on now. That is nice. Jeremy Moussa is the quarterback, is better than advertised. He's come off better than advertised. We were told that this was a close race throughout the entirety of spring and the fall. And at the last minute, Coach Willie Simmons named Jeremy Moussa the starter, and he came out and proved why he was the starter. The running game, as you see, it was non-existent, and that is expected when you only have 7 offensive linemen. 27 attempts, only 56 yards, 2.1 yards a carry. So with the running game that was non-existent, Jeremy Moussa still was able to average 7 yards of completion, pass for almost 300 yards, and only have 1 interception. Xavier Smith really showed how good of a player he's going to be, how he and Musa, that connection between him and Musa is going to give the SWAC problems. 10 catches, 78 yards, 10 catches for the senior, 10 catches in a game where his team needed him the most, and he showed up big. This was a valiant effort by FAMU because as you see, if you just look, I watched the game, but even if you didn't watch the game, at halftime, the Rattlers were down 2 touchdowns, and then they cut the lead to 11 at the end of the third quarter. At halftime, the Rattlers were down 2 touchdowns. After 3 quarters, they were only down by 11 points with 20 guys missing and only 7 offensive linemen. Now, as you see in the fourth quarter, that's when fatigue sets in. You only have 7 offensive linemen. That's when fatigue sets in the fourth quarter. North Carolina's rotating defensive linemen. They probably played 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 defensive linemen on a 4-man front. FAMU only had 7 eligible guys. And the fatigue set in, and you saw it. They weren't able to block North Carolina as well in the fourth quarter. North Carolina started making some plays, then the fumble happened, and then a punt return happened. And some things set in that where fatigue really set in, and not having some of your best players on the team for whatever reason, that's how a fourth quarter ends up like that. But boy, this was a valiant effort by Coach Willie Simmons. And I want to talk about Coach Simmons for a second. Because I talked about in my last video about FAMU, I was like, yo, a mishap like this can drive a great coach away. Having a mishap like this in your compliance office, in your academic advisory office, just things that are not out of his control can drive a coach like this away. And Coach Willie Simmons showed multiple things in this game. He showed that his guys were prepared to play this game to the utmost ability. The fact that his team was able to hang in there, and this was an 11-point game going into the fourth quarter, lets you know that Coach Simmons had that team well prepared. Coach Simmons and staff. Let me not leave out the staff. But Coach Simmons and staff had that team, both the starters, the backups, and the backups, prepared to play a football game against UNC. They weren't looking ahead to Jackson State. They weren't looking ahead to their SWAC calendar. They were ready, well-equipped, well-ready, well-focused, more than focused to play that game on the road in Chapel Hill against UNC. That's first, because it could have been easy for them to just be out of this game by halftime because they were disappointed by the ineligibility stuff, the compliance office stuff, and they could have been looking ahead to Jackson State and the Orange Blossom Classic the next week, saying we're ineligible, we don't have our guys. This game doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Let's just focus and get ready for Jackson State. No, they were focused and ready for North Carolina. And they showed up in Chapel Hill ready and willing and wanting to win that game. And that's a hats off, clap it up for the coach and the coaching staff and Coach Simmons. Second, Coach Simmons made himself a lot of money in that game. Because besides the fact that the compliance stuff could be a factor that may drive him away, the fact that he was able to have his team well prepared, well equipped, and now looking like even with no matter what happens with the eligibility of the other guys, there's still going to be a problem in the SWAC as long as they have that quarterback in Jeremy Mousa and those other guys are able to and willing to play like they played, showed that valiant effort in Chapel Hill. This team is still a team to beat in the SWAC. Now we'll have to wait and see what happens with Isaiah Land, with BJ Bowler, and others, as far as if they'll be eligible for the Orange Blossom Classic. But even if they aren't, we saw that FAMU has a team that can go down to Miami. Still, even with having the 20 guys out, go down to Miami and compete for a big-time win and a major upset, especially if they don't have those guys, over Jackson State in the Orange Blossom Classic. FAMU was going to bring a team ready to win that football game on Sunday in Miami. And that is thanks to their head coach, Willie Simmons. And that's why I say he made himself a lot of money. He is going to be offered a nice job outside of the SWAC, outside of FAMU, outside of probably even HBCU football this offseason. Now, whether FAMU will be able to keep him or not, that's another story for another day. But off that game alone against North Carolina, someone is going to be calling on the services of Willie Simmons after this season. That's what that game showed me against North Carolina. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs up button. So head coach Willie Simmons is big time for that. And Jeremy Moussa is the real deal. His pocket presence, the footballs that he threw, his anticipation, all of those things were top notch. The anticipation of throws, working against guys that he clearly should not have had a chance against, getting the ball out on time and on target, even with pressure in his face. Yo, Musa's the real deal. And I talked about the resurgence and the upgrades at quarterback in the SWAC, and now we have a couple of guys on tape that are going to give SWAC defenses problems this year. That's Jeremy Moussa at FAMU and D. Davis at Alabama State. I talk about him in another video. But Jeremy Moussa is the real deal. And as long as he's running the show at FAMU, I mean, this is how real of a deal. Actually, let me show you this tweet. This is how real Jeremy Moussa is. Like, this is how good even he was playing. His backup, Rashawn McKay, even had to recognize it. Let's take a look. This is a tweet put out by reporter Allison Posey. You know, we did a lot of her tweets talking about the FAMU stuff as far as the ineligibility and stuff. Simmons names Jeremy Moussa. This is Coach Willie Simmons. Names Jeremy Moussa the starter for Saturday's game, well, it's Sunday's game, against Jackson State. The plan was to play both quarterbacks on Saturday against North Carolina. Simmons said Rashawn McKay came up to him during the UNC game and told him he couldn't take Musa out, that he was playing too well. This is how good Musa was and how stand-up of a guy Rashawn McKay is. He goes up to the head coach, knowing that he's supposed to play, saying, don't take him out because he's playing that freaking good. He's a better man than me. Let me just say that, because ain't no way in hell. Ain't no way in hell I wouldn't want to play. So he's a better man than me, but that's honorable by Rashawn McKay. Don't take Musa out. He's playing that well. That's how good the young man was playing against North Carolina. That even his backup, who was going to go into the game, didn't even want to go into the game because he was playing that well. First of all, shout out to him. When you say all in for the team, that's really being all in for the team. And second of all, that just gives you a glimpse, if you weren't able to watch the game, how good Jeremy Moussa actually played on Saturday against North Carolina. The man is good. The man is really, really good. And I can't wait to see him the rest of the season. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. FAMU, what are your predictions for FAMU after watching that game against UNC? Hopefully later this week we'll have an update video about the eligibility of Isaiah Land specifically and others, BJ Bowler and others, for the Orange Blossom Classic. According to some reports, though, I did want to show you this. According to some reports, let me see. Hold on one second. Because this was cool. This was a cool thing done by the SWAC to help FAMU out in their compliance issues. This was a tweet put out by another Tallahassee reporter, Dominic Miranda. He says, Willie Simmons says the SWAC has sent some compliance individuals to assist FAMU football in sorting out eligibility issues and hopes that they can get this whole situation resolved quicker. He commends Commissioner McClellan for seeing the need to help out the Rattlers. So, yes, the SWAC has sent some compliance folks down to Tallahassee to help out Coach Simmons, to help out the Rattlers, because the SWAC knows it was embarrassing to have FAMU on national television on ACC network against a Power 5 team and have them talk about the entire game, the compliance issues with Isaiah Land, BJ Bowler, and others being out, 20 players being out. They don't want to have that again come the Orange Blossom Classic. They want to make that as minimal as possible, because Isaiah Land has been listed as the best HBCU prospect for the NFL. This game won't be on the ACC network, which is a smaller network. This game will be on ESPN2. So this will be more eyeballs. This game will also feature Jackson State, and that matters because a lot of people watch Jackson State games. They don't want to have these same issues. They want to try to get some of this resolved and get Isaiah Land on that field against Shedeur Sanders, against the Jackson State Tigers, against Coach Prime and JSU. So yeah, Commissioner McClellan, he just got that extension, and he's putting his money where his mouth is, getting those folks down in Tallahassee to figure some of this out. Now, some of this we already know, according to Coach Simmons, some of these guys are going to be academically ineligible for the entire year. But Isaiah Land has already come out and said that he's not one of those guys. Isaiah Land and BJ Bowler both have come out and said, like, yo, I'm on course to graduate. I'm not one of those guys who are academically ineligible. I'm on course to graduate. This is, let me show you a tweet Isaiah put out after the game against North Carolina. This is what Isaiah Land had to say. He said, I'm proud of my brother's performance. I can't wait to suit up with you guys again, but only on God's time. And to clarify, I'm ineligible for a reason out of my control, but I can't and won't be denied. Meaning it ain't have nothing to do with grades. And that's why I was careful when I put out my original video saying some of these guys, it falls on the university. Coach Simmons said some of it falls on them as far as the players, meaning some of these guys are academically ineligible, but some of them is paperwork stuff, and that falls on the university. It has nothing to do with the players themselves. And Isaiah doubled down on that, saying it's out of my control and I can't and won't be denied. And we know Isaiah Land had put his name in the transfer portal and then decided to come back. So it probably has something to do with that. And that's unfortunate for him. So we will get an update this week, and I'll update you guys as I figure out more information. But how do you guys, FAMU will fare in the Orange Blossom Classic after watching them and just knowing what you know right now? As the team currently sits, how do you believe the Rattlers will fare against Jackson State and the OBC after seeing their performance against North Carolina? Hit that thumbs up button. Once again, my name is JeffLightsyJr with the Black Boss Channel and Victor Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JLightsy7. That's Instagram and Twitter at JLightsy7. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.